is Doreen Moore. I'm the host of this YouTube channel, Blasian Medley. For today's menu item, I will be making Mighty Meaty Baked Beans. You're probably wondering why I'm calling them Mighty Meaty. Well, I'm calling them Mighty Meaty because there's a lot of meat. I have here a pound of bacon cut into squares, a pound each of ground beef and ground pork. That covers the meaty part of it. Now, the beans, 4 different kinds. I have here baked beans, I have kidney beans, northern beans, as well as black beans. And then all the other seasonings that I use for my baked beans. 1 medium onion chopped, 2 cloves of garlic minced, 3 tablespoons of mustard. Now you can use regular yellow mustard or you can use spicy mustard, depending upon how spicy you want your beans to be. I have also a teaspoon of chili powder, a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of ketchup, and a ½ teaspoon of black pepper. So here it goes, the beginning of the makings of our Mighty Meaty Baked Beans. The first thing we want to do is we want to brown and crisp our bacon. So I went ahead and put my bacon in the hot pan. So go ahead and cook that. Spread it out so it's on the entire bottom surface of the pan and not one big pile of meat in the middle of the pan. Spread it out, brown it, as well as crisp it. Now that we've crisped our bacon, I have it draining on a plate. With the fat that was rendered from cooking the bacon, I'm now going to brown the ground beef. I left about 3 tablespoons of the rendered fat in the pan, so now we are browning the ground beef. Just like that. So stir that around, make sure it's thoroughly browned, and make sure your heat is on medium. Now that we've browned our ground beef, we drained the meat. We left a little bit of the fat again in the pan so that we can go ahead and brown our last meat, and that is our ground pork. Now we are browning our last meat, the ground pork. We left a little bit of the fat rendered from cooking the bacon as well as when we browned the ground beef to cook our last meat. Again, stir that around, make sure it's thoroughly cooked and browned, just like that. We have now finished browning our ground pork. So we've actually cooked all the meats necessary for our Mighty Meaty Baked Beans. The pork, the beef, and the first thing that we cooked was the bacon. So again, with the rendered fat that was left from cooking all the meats, we will be sautéing the garlic and the onions. So go ahead and sauté your garlic and onions. I can't even say it enough that you don't want the heat to be too high because you don't want your garlic to burn because it'll be bitter. So push that around in the rendered fat. Then go ahead and add your onion as well. Saute both of those together on medium heat. At this point, we'll begin to be cooking the beans. Make sure your heat is on medium. And let that saute until the onions become clear. Now that the garlic and onions have sauteed and become clear, we will now add back our meats, the pork and the beef. And at this point, this is where we begin to cook our beans too. So add all your meat, just like this. Push it all in there. And all of our beans. I went ahead and drained the majority of the fluid from the beans out, so we can go ahead and add them. The northern beans, the black beans, the baked beans, and the red kidney beans. So go ahead and stir that together. Again with the heat on medium. Stir it together. Cook the meat and the beans together for about 12 to 15 minutes. You can cook it with or without the lid, but I like to put the lid on it. So we'll go ahead and do that. Go ahead and put the lid on. Let that cook for 12 to 15 minutes. Now that the beans and the meats have been cooking together for about 12 to 15 minutes, we want to add the brown sugar and the ketchup. So here's the cup of brown sugar. I know I didn't mention this earlier, but traditionally baked beans are sweet, and I like to keep with that sweet tradition and add the brown sugar as well as the ketchup. So add both of those, stir it well, and cook those together for about 2 to 3 minutes. Since adding the ketchup and the brown sugar, the meats and the beans have been cooking together for 2 to 3 minutes, we will now add the rest of the ingredients. We'll add our teaspoon of salt, our half a teaspoon of black pepper, our teaspoon of chili powder, as well as our 3 tablespoons of mustard. Add that. Stir in all of those seasonings and mustard. Then we add our last meat, and that is the bacon. So go ahead and add your crisp bacon. Stir that in well. And cook again for another 5 to 10 minutes. Stir it well. And put the lid on. Now that we finished cooking our Mighty Meaty Baked Beans, I went ahead and spooned a big old heaping of it onto my plate. Now I can have this as a meal in itself, but if you choose, you can have this as a side dish, and that could be with fried chicken or ribs. So that is this week's Blasian Medley meal, Mighty Meaty Baked Beans. If you like this recipe, be certain to check us out as well as any other recipe on our Blasian Medley YouTube channel. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. We're also on Pinterest, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you. Enjoy.